I never thought I'd find myself in a mess like this. I was 28, stationed overseas, doing my best to keep my head down, keep my team safe and focus on coming home. Deployment was brutal, but honestly that's what I trained for. What I didn't see coming was the betrayal from someone I trusted more than anyone, my wife, Sarah, and my best friend, Mike. We'd been married for 5 years, and I thought we had a good thing going. Sure, life wasn't perfect, I wasn't around much, and she'd sometimes complain about loneliness. But I never imagined she'd do something like this. I'd come back after 6 months, eager to see her, to hold her, to tell her everything was behind us. Instead, I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach when I saw the messages. It started with a text from her, nothing special, a miss you, a heart emoji. Normal, right? But then I saw the reply from Mike. It wasn't just friendly banter. It was flirtatious, teetering on the edge of something more. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I'd throw up. I stared at the phone like I could will it to be fake, to be just a joke, but there it was, clear as day, messages between them sparking behind my back while I was risking everything overseas. I felt my palms go clammy. My heart hammered like I'd just run a marathon. I couldn't breathe. I had to sit down on the bed, clutching the device so tightly the screen dug into my palms. I read and reread their words, each line like a blow to the gut. "Can't wait to see you," Mike had said. "Tonight's gonna be perfect." Sarah had replied, "Me too. Been thinking about you all day." That was the moment I knew I'd been lied to for months. She'd been sleeping with my best friend while I was thousands of miles away. It was like the ground had opened beneath me. Everything I believed about us shattered in an instant. I wanted to scream, to punch something, but I just sat there, trembling. That's what betrayal does. Makes your insides feel like they're boiling over, your hands shake, your vision blurs. I could feel the rage building, but I knew I had to stay calm. I had to come up with a plan. I could just blow up and ruin everything without thinking. I kept the phone in my hand, staring at that screen that betrayed my trust. It was a cruel, icy reminder that the woman I loved had been lying to my face, and worse, she'd been sneaking around with my best friend. How long had they been at it? What else did I know? That question haunted me, but I knew I'd figure it out. I'd catch her in the act, and then I'd decide what to do. I stayed up all night staring at the messages, trying to piece together what I'd missed. I remembered little things, her phone constantly going off late at night, her changing her passwords, the way she'd been overly secretive when I asked about her days. All of it now made sense. She'd been hiding something, and Mike, I'd known him since college. We'd gone through thick and thin, and I'd always believed he was a good guy. Turns out, even the best friends can turn into liars. That first night, I felt numb, and then I felt furious. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me, or Mike for that matter. I needed a plan. I needed a way to make her pay without losing my mind or doing something I'd regret. I didn't want her to think she could just walk all over me. I started thinking about how to catch her in the act. I knew she'd be sneaky, so I had to set a trap. Maybe I'd check her phone when she wasn't looking, or maybe I'd create a situation where she'd slip up. Whatever it was, I was determined to get proof, something concrete I could confront her with. I couldn't just accuse her blindly. I needed undeniable evidence. The hardest part was deciding what would come next. I wasn't naive enough to think I could just sweep this under the rug and pretend it didn't happen. No, this was a battle, and I wasn't going down without a fight. I wanted to make her regret ever crossing that line. I wanted her to see that trust isn't something taken lightly. So I sat there in the dark, staring at her phone, feeling the weight of betrayal sinking in my chest. I knew I had to act fast. The longer I waited, the deeper this thing would get. I had a plan brewing, one that would turn the tables and make her regret ever lying to me. But I couldn't do it alone. I had to be smart about it. I had to be cold, calculated, and above all, prepared for whatever came next. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My stomach still churned, and my head was pounding from the sleepless night. I kept replaying that moment. I found the texts, her words, Mike's responses, and I knew I couldn't just sit back and do nothing. I had to act, but carefully. I couldn't afford to slip up and let her suspect anything. First thing I did was get a hold of her phone. I didn't want to seem obvious, so I waited until she was in the shower, humming some tune I didn't recognize. The bathroom was just a few feet away and I moved quickly, almost trembling with adrenaline. I knew I was risking everything by snooping, but at that point I didn't see any other choice. I had to be sure. I slipped her phone out of the charger, feeling the cold plastic against my palm. The screen was locked, of course, typical. I remembered her setting a passcode, but I also knew her habits. She was predictable. She used the same pattern for everything, her birthday, a sequence of numbers. I watched her the night before and I noticed her entering the code when she unlocked it. My heart beat faster. It was now or never. I waited for her to finish her shower, then slipped into the bedroom. My palms were sweaty, my mind racing. I tried her birthday, no luck. Damn. Next, I guessed a few combinations, nothing. That's when I remembered she sometimes used a word instead of a number. I typed Sarah and a little smile tugged at my lips when the code unlocked. It was a gamble, but I was desperate. Inside, I found her messages. I scrolled through conversations, looking for anything that confirmed what I'd already suspected. I saw texts from Mike, flirty, suggestive, and utterly damning. She sent him pictures, too. I felt my stomach knot tighter than ever. I couldn't believe I'd been blind to this. The betrayal was complete. I closed her phone gently and put it back where I found it. My entire body was shaking, not with fear, but with rage. This wasn't just about finding out anymore. I had all the proof I needed. The next step was planning the confrontation. I wanted her to see that I knew that I had her dead to rights. I also knew I had to be smart about it. There was no point in throwing accusations blindly or losing control. If I was going to do this right, I had to be calculated. I set up a few things. I installed a discreet app on her phone to monitor her messages. Nothing overly obvious, just enough to catch her if she tried to lie her way out of it. I also made a mental note of her daily habits, her routines, and when she'd be least suspicious. I wasn't about to give her a chance to spin her lies again. That afternoon, I confronted her. I forced myself to sound calm, even though inside I was boiling. I caught her in the act of texting Mike again. Her phone buzzed on the table as she was pouring tea, and I knew it was over. I looked her straight in the eyes, feeling my fists clench at my sides. "Who are you?" "Texting?" I asked casually, voice steady but cold. She froze, then looked away. "Just a friend," she muttered. "Really, friend, because I've seen your messages, the ones you didn't want me to find." I kept my voice even, but there was an edge to it. "Tell me what's really going on." Her face paled, but she tried to deny it. "It's nothing, just a mistake. We're just friends, I swear." I leaned in closer. "You think I'm stupid? I saw the pictures, Sarah. I know about you and Mike. For months. While I was risking my life out there, you were sneaking around with him. How long has this been going on?" She blinked, then looked down, silent. The silence was deafening. I felt my jaw tight. That's when I knew I couldn't let her get away with this anymore, not without consequences. I had to turn the tables. I decided to play it cool for now, but I already had my plan brewing. I would expose her, but not just with words. I wanted to make her see that I wasn't some fool to be played. I wanted her to understand that betrayal has a price. My mind was already working through the steps, how to gather the final proof, how to make her regret what she'd done. I told her, "We're done. You can pack your things. I want the truth, and I want it now." Her eyes darted, and I saw the flicker of panic. That's when I knew I was on the right track. I was about to rewrite the story she thought she was in, and she'd regret ever crossing me. Now I just had to wait for the right moment to execute the rest of my plan. The pieces were falling into place, and I could feel the storm coming. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became that I needed a solid plan, something that would make her realize the gravity of what she'd done without me losing control. I didn't want to just yell and storm out. That wouldn't teach her anything. No, I wanted her to see that I was smarter, more in control, and that betrayal carries real consequences. I spent the next few days putting everything together. I knew her habits, her routines, her weaknesses. I had to make her slip up again, but this time with undeniable evidence. That meant setting a trap, something that would make her believe she was getting away with it one last time. I started by moving her phone into a different room, but I kept the monitoring app active. I also bought a cheap second phone, one I could leave in her purse, her car, even her jacket pocket. I'd make sure I had eyes everywhere. I also sent her a few fake texts, nothing obvious, just enough to spark her interest. Words like, "Are you free tonight?" and "Can't wait to see you." I knew she'd respond, and I wanted to catch her in the act of lying again. One evening, I decided to confront her again, but this time with the evidence ready. I also wanted her to think she was safe, the perfect moment for her to slip up without realizing I was watching. I told her I was going out with some friends, but really I was just hiding nearby, listening in on her calls, tracking her movements. She was in her room, getting ready, flirting with Mike again. I saw her grab the old, fake phone I planted in her purse. My stomach twisted, but I kept my face calm. I was just waiting for her to make the mistake, and she did. She picked up her phone, responded to a message from Mike, then slipped it into her pocket like it was nothing. That's when I made my move. I texted her from my hidden number, pretending to be someone else just to make her nervous. "Hey, I saw you tonight. We need to talk." Her eyes widened when she saw the message. She tried to ignore it, but I could see her hands trembling. Later that night, she finally responded. Her fingers fumbled on the screen, and she sent back, "Who is this?" I kept quiet, watching her reply again and again. Her face turned pale as she realized she'd been caught. The guilt, the panic, the fear, everything played across her features. I didn't need her to say anything yet. I just needed her to know I was one step ahead. I kept the recordings and screenshots in a secure folder, proof of her lies, her cheating, her blatant betrayal. I wanted her to understand that I had her dead to rights, that I wasn't some fool to be played anymore. That night I sat in my car outside her apartment, feeling a strange mix of relief and fury. I had what I needed. She slipped up again, and this time there was no denying it. I knew I was close to breaking her, to making her see that trust, once shattered, is impossible to rebuild. I realized then that I couldn't keep pretending I was okay with this. I had to confront her properly to make sure she understood the damage she'd done. I wanted her to feel the weight of her actions, how she destroyed something I valued more than anything, all while I was risking my life overseas. That's when I decided I'd give her one last chance to come clean. But I also knew I was about to take control, to turn her world upside down and make her regret ever crossing me. I was tired of being the fool, the betrayed husband. Now I was ready to show her that betrayal had a price, and I was the one who was going to make her pay. I waited until the next evening, watching her from a distance through the window. My heartbeat was loud in my ears. But I kept my face neutral. I wasn't about to let her see how much this was affecting me. I had everything ready, proof, a plan, and the mental clarity to follow through. She was in the living room, pacing nervously. Her phone was in her hand, and I saw her glance at it every few seconds. Clearly, she was waiting for something or someone. I had to be careful. She was on edge, and I knew the moment to strike was coming soon. I had told her I was going out for a walk, pretending I was just going to clear my head. Instead, I parked down the street, hidden behind a row of trees, watching her every move. I clutched my phone, ready to send the final message. My stomach was tight and my palms felt slick with sweat. I kept reminding myself, this is what she deserves. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. Her eyes flicked to the screen. I saw her smile, then quickly try to hide it. That was it. The moment I'd been waiting for. I stepped out from my hiding spot and sent the final text from the fake number. "It's time to talk. Come outside." She hesitated for a moment, then moved cautiously toward the door. As she opened it, I stepped into view, my arms crossed, face hard. She froze, her eyes wide with shock. Surprised to see me, I said, voice low but steady. She looked like she'd just been caught stealing. "What are you doing here?" she asked, voice trembling. "I think you know," I replied. "I've been watching. I've seen the messages, the calls, the sneaking around. How long, Sarah? How long have you been lying to me?" Her lips trembled and she looked away, but I pressed on. "You thought you could get away with this. You thought I'd never find out, but I did, and I've got the proof." I pulled out my phone, showing her the screenshots, the recordings. Her face crumpled as she saw the evidence staring back at her. "Tell me why," I demanded. "Why did you do this? While I was risking everything over there, you were sleeping with my friend." She started crying, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know, I was lonely. I didn't mean for it to go this far. It just happened. Please, I didn't want to hurt you." I took a deep breath, feeling a cold fury rise within me. "Hurt me? You've destroyed everything we had. You betrayed me in the worst way possible, but you're right, it just happened. Well, I've got news, I'm done." That was the moment I pulled out the keys to her apartment. "You pack your things, I want you gone by morning, and don't contact me again." She looked at me, shattered and broken, and I felt no pity, only a deep, burning sense of justice. I handed her a bag and watched as she packed her things with trembling hands. I stayed silent, letting her fill the silence with her sobs, her apologies, her pleas. When she was finished, I handed her a paper bag with her keys inside. "Here, take your stuff and leave, and don't come back." As she walked out, I closed the door behind her and felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd done what I could. She was gone, and I'd taken back control. That night I sat alone in the house, staring at the empty space where she used to be. I felt the weight of everything lift, but also the ache of loss. I'd lost someone I loved, someone I trusted. But I knew one thing for sure. I was finally free from the betrayal that had haunted me for months. Looking back, I realized the most important lesson isn't about revenge or punishment. It's about knowing your worth and never ignoring the red flags. Trust isn't something you give lightly, and when it's broken, sometimes the only way forward is to cut your losses and walk away. Don't let anyone make you feel small for demanding honesty. That's the real power, knowing when to stand up and walk out. The house felt unnervingly quiet after she left. I sat on the couch, staring at the doorway, trying to process what just happened. For a moment, I felt a strange sense of relief, like I'd finally taken control of a situation that had spiraled out of my hands. But underneath that, there was a gnawing emptiness, a hollow ache that refused to go away. I'd loved her. I'd trusted her, and she'd shattered both in ways I never thought possible. I could still see her face when she packed her things, tears streaming, trembling hands clutching her belongings. That image haunted me, but I kept telling myself I'd done the right thing. No one deserves to be lied to, cheated on, and kept in the dark. I'd finally opened my eyes and forced her to face the consequences. In the days that followed, I went through the motions, packing up some of her stuff, cleaning out the shared spaces, blocking her number. I was surprised at how effortless it was to shut her out mentally. I'd been keeping her at arm's length already emotionally, but now I felt the physical act of her departure sealing the deal. That final goodbye, the moment she handed me the keys, felt like a closing chapter. But it wasn't just about her. It was about me, too. I had to ask myself what I'd learned from this. How did I miss all the signs? How could I have been so blind? I realized I'd ignored the small red flags, the little things that didn't add up but I brushed aside because I wanted to believe in us. That's the danger. When you're so invested in someone, your mind convinces you to overlook the warning signs. Now I was left with the aftermath. Friends and family reached out, offering support, but I kept most of it to myself. I didn't want to seem weak or vulnerable. I wanted to stand tall, even if inside I was hurting. I knew I'd need time to heal, to rebuild trust in myself and others. Some days were better than others. I started focusing on myself again, working out, catching up on hobbies I'd shelved, even going out with friends just to get some normalcy back. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been played for a fool. That betrayal had cut deep. It made me question everything: my judgment, my trust, my sense of security. There was one thing I kept telling myself, though: I deserved better. I deserved honesty, loyalty, respect. And anyone who took that away from me wasn't worth my time or energy. I knew I'd eventually move past this, but the scars would stay for a while. That's just part of the process. I also realized I'd learned a lot about boundaries, about what I will and won't tolerate. No one, no matter how much I love them, gets a free pass to lie and cheat. That trust has to be earned and maintained. Once broken, it's damn near impossible to rebuild, at least not without a lot of work on both sides. Looking back, I see this as a wake-up call, not just about her, but about myself, about recognizing red flags early, about not settling for less than I deserve, and about standing up for my worth. I don't regret what I did: taking control, confronting her, walking away. Those were the steps I needed to take to regain my dignity. Now I'm still healing, still piecing myself back together. But I know one thing for sure: I'll never ignore the warning signs again. I'll never let someone betray me and pretend it's okay. I'll keep my standards high and my eyes open, Because real trust isn't given freely, it's earned, and once broken, it takes a hell of a lot of effort to earn it back. That's the lesson I want to share. Never let anyone make you feel like your boundaries are too much or your feelings are invalid. Trust is fragile. Protect it. And when someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. The aftermath was a strange mix of relief and regret. I knew I'd made the right call, but that doesn't mean the pain just disappeared overnight. Sometimes I catch myself thinking about her, remembering what we had and feeling a pang of nostalgia, even anger. The betrayal was a punch to the gut, but I also learned something fundamental about myself, about what I'm willing to accept and what I'm not. For weeks, I avoided her social media. I didn't want to see her happy or pretending everything was normal. I'd take deep breaths, reminding myself that she chose her path and I chose mine. That's a hard pill to swallow, accepting that someone you loved and trusted could so easily betray everything. But I've come to realize that sometimes love isn't enough. Trust, respect, honesty, those are the foundations of a relationship. When those are broken, everything else crumbles. I finally reached the point where I could look in the mirror without feeling disgusted. I handed her the keys, packed her things, and told her to leave a clean break. The act was simple, but the impact was profound. I knew I was reclaiming my dignity, my peace. That's what mattered most. I didn't want her to see me as someone who could be easily manipulated or lied to. I wanted to stand tall and say, I am worth more than your lies. The real lesson I want to pass on to anyone reading this is that betrayal hurts badly, but it also reveals who people really are and what you're willing to tolerate. I used to think I was invincible, that my trust was unbreakable. Turns out, trust is something you have to protect by listening to your gut, recognizing red flags early, and not ignoring small signs just to keep the peace. When someone shows you their true colors, don't try to paint over them. Face it head on. Sometimes walking away is the only way to save yourself from further damage. I was willing to fight for my relationship at first, but it became clear that she didn't want to fight for us. That's when I knew I had to let go. No matter how much it hurts, you have to prioritize your own well-being. I also learned that revenge, when done smartly, is about reclaiming power, not about causing pain for pain's sake. I didn't want to humiliate her or destroy her. I just wanted her to understand that her actions had consequences, that I wasn't some pushover she could walk all over. The evidence, the confrontation, the final act of handing her the keys, that was my way of saying, you crossed a line, and I refuse to be a part of that anymore. In the end, I feel lighter, not completely healed, but definitely better. I've regained clarity, confidence, and a deeper respect for myself. The scars will stay, but I've learned how to carry them. And I'll never forget the importance of listening to that voice inside, telling me when something's wrong. That voice saved me from years of pain, and I hope it saves others too. So if you're going through something similar, here's my advice. Trust yourself. Don't ignore the warning signs. Confront what needs to be confronted, and don't be afraid to walk away. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let go and choose yourself. Because at the end of the day, no one, no matter how much you love them, deserves to make you feel small or unworthy. Stand tall, protect your heart, and never forget your worth.